And now, you're tuned in to All Factors Considered. Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of All Factors Considered. First thing I have to say is UFC 262 was madness. UFC 262 was filled with finishes, submissions, knockouts, the whole gambit, upsets all over the place, man. But most importantly is we finally have direction in the 155-pound division. We finally have direction in the lightweight division, man. So here to break it down with me is my brother AJ. AJ, what's going on, my man? This was a very successful pay-per-view, my man. This was one of those pay-per-views where I feel like the people, they actually got their money's worth. The good, hard, working fans that just tuned in, turned it on their TV, not internet savvy, they finally got what they was looking for, man. But I do have to say, first impression right off the bat, Do Bronx, man. Charles Oliveira is the new king of the 155ers, man. And now it seems like there's going to be a lot of people who might not want to fight that man if that's who they have to go through to get that championship belt. But I will say there's a lot of opportunities now, and now that we have direction, man, we can finally start going somewhere, because this is arguably the most decorated, the best weight class in all of mixed martial arts, man, especially in the UFC, AJ. But before we do anything else, man, drop a like, subscribe, hit the yellow notification bell, do all the good stuff that you need to do to stay locked in with us every single week. 3 episodes a week. You already know what time it is, AJ. AJ, where do you go in if you go and type us up? What do you like to watch? Spotify, YouTube? Where do you normally watch at?
I go on YouTube, my dog. I enjoy the visuals. A lot of the back and forth, man. So I'm a YouTube fiend. What about you, Derick?
I'm a Spotify guy, man. I'm a weird guy because I listen to my podcast and my audio on 1.5 speed, right? So I just need to consume as much information in the shortest amount of time as possible. So I like listening to the Spotify, but I can't disagree with you, man. The visuals are where it's at. Now, folks, before we start assessing the damage and, doing some of the best photos over the weekend like we do every single week here, what I want to do is I just want to say, man, UFC 262 results. We had 4 knockouts, 3 submissions, 5 decisions, 6 upsets, man. We had Cachoeira, we had Andrea Lee, Lando Venata, Andre Muniz, Edson Barboza, and Rogerio Bontorin pulling some crazy upsets, which we're definitely going to talk about. Fight of the night was something that we guaranteed, we promised here on this platform. Edson Barboza versus Shane Burgos, crazy delayed knockout. We going to talk about it. And then Charles Oliveira and Christian Yagos got performance of the night bonuses, which were not 50K. Instead, El Kukui, our boy Tony Ferguson, asked Dana White in the Dana White privilege to boost that thing up to 75K for us, man. So all the formalities aside, let's do a little record recap and get into the photos, AJ. So I went 4-1 on this one, man. Another hot streak. We rolling 2-3 for yourself, AJ. But there was one of these fights which could have changed the way that our picks would have been looking, man, because it was a very close decision, and that was the Chookagian Araujo fight, man. Very close. But nonetheless, man, I'm gonna start the clock, and what I want you to do, AJ, is I want you to just sit here and give me some reactions, my man. So I'm going to start off right here. First picture of the night. What do you think it feels like? And folks listening, I'm going to describe it. What we have is Jordan Wright, the Beverly Hills Ninja, bowing to his opponent, Jamie Pickett, after starching the man in less than a minute and a half, man. What would your reaction be if someone bowed to you when you were just regaining your consciousness?
I mean, there's 2 schools of thought. Either absolute disrespect that this dude just bowing to me, or absolute respect. If you come brought up with the martial arts background, all right, it's a bow. We cool. But I'd be a little jaded. My man. How about you?
I feel like that's just dominance in its finest right there, man. That's taking the martial arts away, but that's just going to show, hey, man, this is what I do, man. That's not what you want to be regaining your consciousness to. I will say that. Next photo we got up here, man. We got a very bloody Gina Mazany, man, in a very back and forth war where Mazany was controlling most of the first round, and then looks like she just gassed out in the second, and Cachoeira, put it on her. Heavy hands. Give me your take, AJ.
Heavy hands, Derick. Heavy hands, man. Cachoeira is a bomber. And no, man, from this photo, it's just a bloody mess, and this is what we love to see. It's 2 girls going ham. We love it.
We love it. We love it here. Right here, this is one of my favorite pictures of the year so far. This is Andrea Lee locked in with that triangle arm bar right there on Antonina Shevchenko, whose arm was just sitting there what it seemed like for minutes at a time, begging to get arm barred. 10 seconds left in the, I believe it was in the first round, and Andrea Lee said she had to go for it, man. She was holding on to that body lock, that little triangle body lock right there for 3 minutes, man. Legs was gassing out. Give me your take, AJ.
I mean, this one to me proves that names don't matter, Derek. It's all about the game, man. Shevchenko name might be a hell of a thing, but you can still get your elbow dislocated.
Agreed. When your back is against the wall, man, it does urge you to do some really, really desperate things, like, go attack the armbar like that, right? So this one, another great photo, and I just felt good. This is my man Groovy Lando Venata just landed a nice little right hand to the face of Mike Grundy, man. Great wrestler Mike Grundy. Give me your take, AJ.
Bro, this looks like a Stockton slap, but this one hurts a little more because he hit him with the knuckles, my man. This is yeah, exactly, with those knuckles. Man, this is a good one, man. The Land of Venata. It was hard. Yeah.
Real quick, AJ, I just want to say, I was kind of thinking about this, man. I don't know if it is in the rule set or not, if it's like a specific thing that you can or cannot do, but I was wondering. I was like, if I was fighting, part of me would want to hit you with these pointy knuckles. Like if I was on the ground and pound and you're just like, hitting them on, that hurts. Like it doesn't feel good. I wonder, do you have any clarity on that?
I don't think I know you can extend and poke, but I don't think there's any, you can like half little tiger palm too. I don't think there's any rules to that as far as I know anyway.
And folks, if you're just listening, it's the, not your knuckles, the main knuckles you use to punch, but the middle knuckle in between the tips of your fingers and the main knuckles. I'm wondering if you could punch with those, because I just hit myself on the shoulder. I'm feeling a little sore already, man. I'm like, my Lord. All right, let's move on, man. This one, folks, brace yourself. Graphic image ahead. Jacare, not too graphic. I mean, for me, I went to school for health sciences, studying cadavers and stuff like this, man. Broken arm ain't nothing to me. Jacare, man, broken humerus is what it's looking like. The red arrow is pointing to just a disfigured Jacare Souza that came at the hands of Andre Muniz, man. Said he was a better grappler, man. And then before you give me your take, AJ, this is the next one that I want you to respond to. This is a meme. Me after hearing Jacare's arm snap, and it's a dude just disgusting ripping his headphone off, right? Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. I feel like most people did. Give me your take, AJ.
Yeah, that was a loud pop, Derek. That was a loud pop. And if you are a YouTube fan, go shout out Dr. Brian Shooter. He does a good breakdown on this video, man. You can see the muscles move and the arm break. It was horrifying. And I was right there with you just throwing stuff when I heard that break, man. It was disgusting.
But first off, man, Jacare was so just calm and collected. He was just like, oh, arm's broken? All right. I mean, it is what it is, Savage. This one is a good one, man. This is another one for picture of the year right here. This is Edson Barboza landing a mean right hook, man. That could have been the punch that ended the night for Shane Burgos, man. Give me your take, AJ.
Man, this is a clean one. You got to keep your mouth closed, Burgos, because I don't know if this is the delayed knockout. We'll get to that in a bit, but man, this is a good picture right there. And you can even see the clean elbow. Ooh, it was a perfect technique right there from Edson Barboza.
And then my question for this next one, AJ, is this is not the look you ever want to be giving your opponent. Now, let's take it from the Edson Barboza perspective. This is Edson Barboza walking down a very, very hurt Shane Burgos, who eventually the fight was off because he just kind of had that delayed knockout reaction. If you're Edson Barboza and you're staring at your opponent looking like that, what are you thinking? What's going through your head?
Ooh, dinner, brother. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. $50K dinner. Like, you're so excited because both hands are down, butts on the ground. Man, it's eating time is what I'm thinking.
I agree, man. And I think this sums up what we saw, especially in this fight, but basically throughout the pay-per-views, this next one right here. What do we got, AJ? You tell me what this says.
It's a little small for the viewers out there. Violence. And Derek, before in the pre-show, I said kicks on kicks, but this meme right here is exactly what the whole night was, man. Violence on violence. It's what we love to see.
Yeah, folks. It's like you open up a file cabinet and all the folders are just marked violence. That's what UFC 262 was, man. This next one, man, another one graphic for people who got some knee issues. I'll make it bigger for you, AJ. I know you love to see that one right there.
Yeah, this is the one you had to make bigger, huh, Derek?
I had to make it bigger, man. AJ, what do you do in a situation like this? El Cucuy making a grimacing face. You never see El Cucuy make a face like that unless he's in serious danger, serious pain. He just ate a heel hook. He got his knee torn up, most likely. We don't know because that's how tough he is, but give me your take, AJ.
Man, this made me scream like twice. Like I was right there with El Cucuy, man. This one's a hard one because you can even see how the knee is being flexed, and El Cucuy never says quit, obviously, but he was screaming for some pain on that one.
Yeah, I agree, man. Tough one for El Cucuy, man. That's 3 straight. You never want to see that, man. But the next one we got here, this is a little foreshadowing. Just give me a quick reaction. Look at the jubilance. Look at the face of a Charles Oliveira, a Chucky Olives. You know what I'm saying? Finally has the gold wrapped around in his hands, man. And I don't want to foreshadow too much. So just give me a quick reaction to this one, AJ.
This one to me, Derek, summarizes his whole experience after, and the champ does what the champ wants. I love it, man. I didn't predict him to win, but it was a hell of a fight. You got to give it to Charlie Bronx, man. It was good.
Yeah, Doe Bronx, man. New king, man. And then lastly, I just want to read this really quickly, AJ, so don't bother. I'm going to read it for you. This is a article that came out from MMA Junkie, man, by Danny Segura and Ken Hathaway, and basically I'm just going to read it for you folks. Andre Muniz knew there was only one way to stop Jacare with jiu-jitsu, and that was to put him away. Muniz expected to go to great lengths to beat veteran Ronaldo Souza in the grappling department, and he broke Souza's arm with an armbar in the first round of their clash at UFC 262 on Saturday night. The 31-year-old expected just that, as Souza is one of the most respected grapplers in MMA, known for fighting submissions until the very end. He says, I know him very well. I knew that it had to go like this, Muniz told reporters at UFC 262 post-fight press conference. If I had a choker submission, he was going to go unconscious or I'd have to break his arm. I forced the arm bar, and I didn't think his arm was going to break, but it happened. I wish him the best, and I hope he comes back fast. Best wishes to him in his recovery. And at the headline, which was really the most telling of this, he says, I knew this is the only way it had to go, man. I had to do it, and I knew that this was the way. And it's unfortunate because, to me, AJ, this feels like in with the new, out with the old. You know what I mean? That was my summary for really the last couple of weeks of what we have been seeing in terms of the old school veterans, the names that we've grown up to love and know, you know what I mean, are now getting the boot, and the new generation's coming in, AJ. So, real quickly, let me just talk about that before we get into this main card stuff, man. Andre Muniz said he was a better grappler than Jacare Souza, right? Going into this fight. I don't want to say it's true, but I mean, this performance left me with no other choice but to say, hey, man, I mean, this dude's got an argument up there. This dude landed multiple takedowns on Jacare. He won the submission battle, broke the dude's arm. I mean, what do you say from a situation like this other than, is it father time? Is he truly better than Jacare in his prime? We'll never know, because Jacare is 41 years old or whatever the case may be. AJ, before we move on to this main card stuff, just give me your take on the in with the new, out with the old type scenario we're seeing here.
I mean, it seems to be that's the meta we're playing with right now. Derick is, unfortunately, ultimately Father Time is always undefeated. So that's kind of what's going on right now. But we were seeing it more so to a high-end effect now in the UFC, being that we have so many vets who are still fighting and so much new talent coming in. It's kind of sad to see. Although it's good for me that they're not just getting cut, without fights. They're not just getting thrown to the wayside without any kind of acknowledgement. So that's pretty nice. But man, it's rough when you see the old dog get taken out to pasture, Derick. What do you think? I
mean, I definitely agree with you, man. Like I said, one of those things where it can cloud your judgment because you have so many fond memories of these fighters. A big one, let's just jump into it, man. El Cucuy, Tony Ferguson, right? Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. What did we do? We said, when I asked you that question about, okay, Tony or Beneil, right? First I said, not analytics, not the real, deal. We're really diving into this. Just give me your perspective as a fan. And both of us as fans says, El Cucuy's going to do it, bro. What are you talking about? Dude's got a savage mindset. Imanari rolls, shades and blades. Come on, you know what I'm saying? And even when I see him walking out, hyped up, coming out to the breakdancing music and whatnot, I was like, oh, okay, El Cucuy's back. And then the fight happened. And Beneil Dariush did what Beneil Dariush does, man. I talked about how he's one of the most respected fighters in the UFC right now in terms of top control, right? And that's really all he had to do. He didn't even need to do and win the striking contest with him because he knew I could just hold him on the ground. There's nothing he can do. Let me ask you, AJ, what do you think now about, this is a big narrative going on. They're saying Tony Ferguson lacks the basics, right? A lot of fundamentals, saying he was able to get away with some things due to his athleticism when he was younger, but now that he's older. And let me tell you, when he was bouncing around and the gray hair is starting to show and he's doing that, I was like, damn, this is an old El Cucuy, you know what I'm saying? Now that he's a little bit older, the narrative is that he's not able to get away with some of the stuff he did when he was younger because he lacks those fundamentals. Give me your take on that. Do you think that's true? Do you think that there's any merit to that? What do you think?
I mean, there's definitely merit to the statement, like the first thing that goes is definitely your speed. Your power is always the last thing to go. And Tony Ferguson, that athleticism played a lot into his game, especially with how quirky and how fast movement he had and that kind of weird, awkward style. But it's like a blanket statement for every single person around. Yes, that's 100% true. The older you get, the less active you get. But for Tony Ferguson, it's hard to say because, like you said, he came out swinging. He came out hot, ready. I think the biggest problem he faced more so that I was seeing, not necessarily a lack of basics, but a lack of necessity to get off his back. Like he was cool with playing the game, man. He was cool with playing the jiu-jitsu game, which we've seen another meta for the UFC, man, is position over submission. And he just wasn't able to get up, wasn't able to put any effort, or what he was putting effort, wasn't able to show that he was actually controlling any sort of the fight. So it's almost an easy judgment for the judges to say, like, you were on your back the whole time, bro. You didn't win. So as far as going to that, he lost his athleticism and it lacks the basics in order to not depend too heavily on them. That's kind of a reach for me, my man. That's kind of a reach. You're telling me a guy who's been fighting in the UFC for 11 plus years. I don't even know how many years Tony Ferguson is, but I know it's longer than a decade. Doesn't know how to throw a straight right or the straight left, or, like it sounds kind of shoddy for outside judgment to say that this dude lacks the basics, because being a basic striker is actually a compliment. If you have the basics down, that's a good thing. Like basics win championships, my man. So I think it's a bit of a stretch personally. What do you think?
Well, I'm with you. I think it's what have you done for me lately? You're on a 3-fight losing streak, and then what happens? Yeah, all of a sudden you don't know how to fight. But I do think that the comment does have merit in terms of lacking basics because of some of the jiu-jitsu submission defense that was lacking. You know what I mean? Moving certain ways when you probably should have moved the other way in terms of getting out. He tried to do this like escape from the backside from Beneil Dariush, and Dariush just stuffed it easy. Like, I thought that Dariush had a little more trouble against Fajeda than he did against Tony Ferguson in terms of the jiu-jitsu scrambles, right? So I think that's kind of more what they're talking about, is because he doesn't have the athleticism to kind of explode and just get away. It's like, all right, well, now you got to use your technicality. You got to use your, technical abilities to be able to escape. And, we just haven't seen it. And there was another statistic that popped out that said that Tony Ferguson has landed like a combined 34 significant strikes over his last 30 minutes in the cage, which is another one where it's just like, okay, well, we're not seeing the offense that we used to see. We're not seeing the volume you put up against RDA. You know what I mean? The last time Tony Ferguson had real volume was against Justin Gaethje, and he was getting pieced up the entire fight. So unfortunately, man, it's the end of an era is what it appears to be for El Cucuy, man. But I will say this. You got to respect the man for what he did in the time that he did it, man. But I do have to just kind of point this out lastly. It makes me just wonder this, and I don't want to even be hard on anybody or anything like this, but it just makes me wonder, could he have actually beaten Khabib? You know what I mean? Or were we just overzealous and overhyped as fans? Just give me your take, because then let's talk about Beneil Dariush. He's the winner here, so let's talk about him. But just give me your take. Do you think?
I mean, now, no chance. Yeah. But when they were first slated to fight, and because the fight got rescheduled, 7 times?
Yeah.
So, young Tony, I mean, I think that was the biggest thing, because back then, he had that awkward style. And I actually agree with what you're saying about the non-explosiveness coming off the back and just didn't have the right technique for the jiu-jitsu. And maybe, I mean, I still, back in the day, I think 100% yes, he would have been able to do it. Tony Ferguson now with, 29-0 Khabib? Nah, probably not, man. It's hard to say.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. And that's just the one thing that's going to be the big what if that we never got to see in mixed martial arts, man. So it's unfortunate, but it's the way that it rolls, man. It's the way the cookie crumbles, right? So let's move on to the next one, man. We just hit the co-main. Why not hit the main event, man? Charles Olives. We can't even disrespect. The man's name is Charles Oliveira, du Bronx. He is the new lightweight champion and suffered some real deal adversity in the first round of his bout against Michael Chandler, man. For a quick second, I said, man, this cannot be going any more perfect for Michael Chandler than it is now, man. Like, this is picture perfect narrative. He's about to knock out Charles Oliveira in the first round. We're all going to sit here and be like, damn, well, I guess he does belong in the UFC and whatnot. But what happens, man, it's a thing that a lot of people were actually calling for. They're saying that if Michael Chandler doesn't knock you out in the first round, he's not going to win the fight. And I do think that he did. There was something in terms of the mental that comes with, I gave you my best shot. I had you hurt. And you're coming out storming in the next round. Like, there's something where it's like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's if Edson Barboza. What if Edson Barboza was putting it on Burgos? And then, I mean, well, that's kind of what the Burgos situation was, right? Burgos was just like, all right, bro, well, I'm going to keep walking forward. You could kick me in my leg 100 times. It doesn't matter, right? We'll talk about that in a second. Nonetheless, man, Michael Chandler, just give me your impression before we talk about Charles Oliveira. Michael Chandler put up a very valiant effort, man. And I do think it's very clear he does belong in the UFC. And there are a lot of fun fights that we can make for him in the future. But just not quite ready for that championship. You know what I mean? Mentality here in the UFC, maybe it was a little overconfident. Give me your take on the fight.
Man, I mean, I was excited, man, because I called the round 1 knockout for Michael Chandler, and I thought it was going to happen. I was screaming, I was excited, and then absolutely stunned silent in the next minute Like,
Yeah.
it was crazy. And I mean, Charlie Oliveira fought the perfect fight against Michael Chandler. Maybe not so in the first round.
Yeah.
You know, he did have the moments where he was pressuring. That's what he needed to do. You know, that front kick was working nice, but that second round, he came out storming, brother. And that's exactly like you were saying, Michael Chandler. You get him past that first round. He doesn't necessarily have the wherewithal to keep going. He's very much so a blitz you, hold you down, and beat you up very fast kind of fighter. So man, Charlie Oliveira did it exactly like he was supposed to. And that check left hook, it was so fast. Me and my buddy were watching it, and he was like, I looked away for a split second, didn't see what happened. And it was so fast that I was like, I think it was a left. I think he hit him with a left. I'm not really sure. But sure, it ended up that it was a check left hook, beautiful on the button. He was out. And Michael Chandler, take it, you know, give him some credit, because he was out on his feet and he got caught with 3 more. That was eventually what put him down. And it was a good fight, man. I was super impressed. Like you said, Charlie Oliveira, nothing you can take away from him. This dude Bronx is real deal. He's been in this UFC. He's been in the UFC game for so many years now. So it's about time. You couldn't have seen it happen to a better guy. But also Michael Chandler, he's real deal, man. He put up a great fight. And, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles, like you said earlier, Derek. That's the way the cookie crumbles. And sometimes in the fight game, you get caught with a clean left check when you weren't noticing it. And those, the ones you don't see, are always the ones that hurt you the most. And do Bronx and new, you know, that's what it is, Derek.
Yeah, man. Michael Chandler, he said it best himself. He was like, I zigged when I should have zagged, man. It happens in this games. I've had a lot of ups, a few downs, man, but I will be back to contend for another championship, man. I don't think it'll happen as soon as he's talking about. He said, I guarantee I'll be champion within the next 12 months. I don't think that's how it works, pal. You know, you already had your shot. Now we got to move on to a couple other people, you know what I'm saying? But I do think he will be around for a while, man. I think he's in his mid-30s right now. He still has some time to really make some noise. But ultimately, man, this is really, I mean, like, how would history have changed if the referee stopped the fight when Do Bronx was ducking and weaving on all fours, moving his head like that, you know, Benson Henderson style? If the referee would have just, I honestly thought he was going to just pull him off and been like, okay, early stoppage for Chandler, but a stoppage is a stoppage, and we're going to give it to him, right? I thought that's what it's going to be. How would history change, AJ, before we talk about, you know what I mean, a couple more of these fights and whatnot? How would history change if the referee would have just pulled Michael Chandler off of him, and we would have heard and knew from Michael Chandler after winning one fight in the UFC, becoming a champion?
Well, I definitely, I'm with you, man, because I thought for sure when he was on that turtle pose and he was, you know, hands going back and forth, and Michael Chandler was clipping him a couple times. So he was getting him. He rolled onto his back, started the ground and pound. The end was nigh, Derek, and that ref, if he would have called it, I mean, I would have been happy. But I think the notion that Michael Chandler was unearning, didn't deserve it, it was a fix. The ref was an early stoppage. There would have been a lot more critique and criticism on Michael Chandler in his career, and it would have been a less solidified victory in the eyes of a lot of people, especially because Michael Chandler isn't the biggest fandom in MMA. So I definitely think, you know, it would have played a little bit more to the narrative, maybe even got Charlie Oliveira a rematch right away. But I don't think he's going to get, Michael Chandler's going to get the rematch right away. It was a good win.
Yeah, absolutely not. Michael Chandler, now he has to fight down. You know what I mean? You got your good run of luck, you know, early on in your UFC tenure, but now you got to do the thing that other UFC fighters have to do, right? Because let's talk about it. Charles Oliveira, he had to win 18 UFC fights before he got one title shot. That's ridiculous, right? Now, not only is he the champion, but he has also passed Cowboy Cerrone for most finishes in UFC history with 17. And listen, man, like I said, early adversity, early on, that's the heart of a champion, man. And I do just want to point this out before we move on, man. When Oliveira was celebrating, he did the same thing Amanda Nunes did. And this made me think that these championships must mean so much more to these Brazilians, man. So much more to these people who have seen, like, you know, real poverty, real adversity in life. Not just in the combat organizations, not just in the cage, but in life, right? So when he runs around and he's jumping for joy and he's holding it like that, I'm just like, dude, you got to feel for the guy. You got to be like, dude, I don't know how long Charles Oliveira is going to be able to hold on to this belt, man, but I'm happy while he is able to hold on to it, because we'll talk about it in matchmaking in a second, man, but Justin Gaethje next, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Before we go there, man, or what you got, AJ?
Yeah, no, to that point, Derek, man, and Dude Bronx is real. I was watching a thing on, it was either, I'm pretty sure it was Chael Sonnen's YouTube show, where he was saying that most Brazilians try to get out. Like, they try to get out of Brazil. They try to get out of the favelas. They try to get out of that lifestyle. And that's kind of what everyone wants. You know, you grew up in the hood. You want to get out. That's just the thing. Nobody wants to be stuck there. except for Charlie Olives, my man. He's the only one. And he even said in his interview, Favela, we did it. Like, he's real deal G. He's homegrown, bro. He's legit, man. And I love to see that. And like you're saying, I was very excited, man. The champ does what he wants. He wants to jump out of that cage and run around. Do it for Braza, bro. I was very happy to see it go down, Derek. I was excited, man.
Bro, it was incredible. He went and jumped on the commentary stand, was face to face with Joe Rogan, right? And I love that you just said that, because that's the Conor McGregor. Now Charlie Olives can do it, or Charles Oliveira, right? The champ does what the champ fucking wants to do, bro. That's what happens when you get that goal, man. But we spent enough time talking about that, AJ. Let's move on to another bout, man. Let's move on to that Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza, man. One of the craziest finishes I've ever seen in watching all of these fights, man. If you follow me on Instagram, folks, you know that I post fight clips all the time. People get knocked out in all varieties, shapes, sizes, forms, right? This is what I've just never seen, man. And Joe Rogan, he's like, dude, I've called thousands of fights, and I've never seen someone suffer a delayed knockout due to a right hook to your head. We see the liver shots all the time where your body doesn't process, you get hit in the liver, and you're like, oh, fuck, I'm done. You know what I mean? This one, Edson Barboza clips Burgos with the right hook, and Barboza just like, okay. Oh, okay. And he just fades away, man. And it's just like, oh, shit, okay. And even Edson Barboza was like, bro, I can't explain to you what just happened. I can't explain to you why this dude just got knocked out. But I do know one thing is for certain, and I'm the winner, man. What's up? Let's rock, man. Very, very impressive performance from Edson Barboza. Edson Jr. Barboza, who is now 2-1 at 145 pounds. He's got that delayed knockout was very rare to see. And it's his first knockout win since 2018 versus Dan Hooker over there at UFC Fox 31, man. So it's been a long time, man. I feel really good for Edson Barboza, and I think that he's going to be a real deal player in this 145-pound division. Give me your takeaways from the fight, man. Shane Burgos was very, very tough, man, and he belongs in this division as well. But listen, man, it wasn't his night. So give me your take, AJ.
Yeah, I mean, the fight kind of went exactly how I was expecting it. Shane Burgos led the dance. He was doing, looking good. I honestly expected a little more output from him. I expected him to start throwing a little bit more kicks, kind of like he did in the second. But, man, it was Edson Barboza was sharp, brother. He was so sharp that he even made his own calf bleed, like his own shins bleed. And it was a good fight, man. And like I said, kicks on kicks on kicks. That Barboza fight was crazy. There's a reason it won fight of the night, man. It was back and forth. It was a lot of fun. And I think if Burgos would have started off a little bit more how he did in the second, we would have ended up with a lot faster of a fight. So it's kind of good it ended up how it went. But I've never once in my entire life, like you said, Joe Rogan's never ever seen it. I've never once seen a delayed knockout. The only time I have is when they get knocked out, they're out, but their body's just delayed fall. Not necessarily how Shane Burgos did, where he was up, he was out, like he was with it, and then you just see his eyes go, oh no. And then he just started stumbling back. I've never once seen it. It was crazy to see. It was actually kind of scaring. Most knockouts I'm not really scared for, but that was one of those ones where you're like, man, is that like a brainstem thing? Is that something crazy? I don't know, man. I hope he's all right. It was a hell of a fight, though. It was cool to see old school Edson Barboza just throwing kicks on kicks on kicks and absolutely blasting that lead leg of Shane Burgos. What do you think, Derek? Take it away.
Well, listen, man, I honestly believe that Dana White, when he stood up, when Shane Burgos dropped his back against the cage, I thought Dana White stood up because he thought he just witnessed a dead body. Like, he just saw someone get murdered, you know what I mean? Because that was really the reaction, right? It was like, oh, what just happened? You're not supposed to be down, bro. You were just standing up. You're fine. I honestly think that this was a great example of an individual, and I think this is possible for certain people, an individual who is legitimately too tough for his own body. Like, your body says, hey, bro, you've been hit so many times and you're wearing a great poker face, but we're about to shut down for your own good. And like, for your own good, to protect you. Like, I have to shut this thing down. And I think that's what happened more or less, right? Because in all honesty, we talk about bulletproofing your mind, mental toughness, David Goggins style, right? And it's easy to talk about it. It's another thing to do it, man. The body has these defense mechanisms for a reason. The body has to shut down in certain, aspects for a reason. That's the reason why people get knocked out. And as you get older, you get knocked out a little bit easier. It's your body just protecting you, right? But at the end of the day, my question for this, AJ, for you is, how do you think this affects Shane Burgos going on in his career, man? Because you have to say this has to take something off of your career. You know what I mean?
I mean, I would at least, if I was in Shane Burgos' corner, man, we definitely got to go get an MRI. We got to take a good 6 months off, because that's something we've never seen. We don't even know how. We don't even have like past data of how to handle this, man. Yeah. So and not only that, but it affects his career, because he was, like you said, a hell of a poker face, fighting hard. But how does that affect every single fight going after when, boom, you're getting tagged and your fighter still has a poker face on, but in the back of the mind, like, the body's going to work. They call it a button for a reason. It's hard, man, especially like we were saying before, the meta in the UFC is out with the old, in with the new. Well, when one of the old dogs KOs you like that, it's going to be a hard climb to the top. Derek, what do you think?
Well, in terms of like where he's going to go in the future, I still think he's going to be around for a while, man. I'm just talking about, like, for an example, I don't want to use Tony Ferguson again as an example, but after Justin Gaethje, things started to get a little bit weird, right? You get tagged up like that. How about Calvin Kattar, right? Calvin Kattar, he's probably going to take about a year off, right? So far, it's been, he fought in like January, so it's been like 4 or 5 months, you know what I mean? I think that Shane Burgos is going to need to take a very extended layoff in terms of, being able to protect that brain so he can move forward in his career and not have these issues. Last thing you want, we already know CTE is a part of the game. We already know people are going to deal with those issues. But the last thing you want is a bunch of, and especially because Diego Sanchez and Josh Fabia, right, have been bringing this all to everyone's awareness about, as you get older and stuff like that. Listen, all respect and all the well wishes to Shane Burgos and Edson Barboza, both of them, man. It takes two to tango, man. You couldn't have that fight of the night unless both of those dudes were just insanely tough. Last thing to know before we move on, seeing Edson Barboza, that speed, that power, man, it's like watching him from 5 years ago. It's ridiculous. Like, the man doesn't age. And to think that the UFC was like in talks to cut this man recently, like, that's just crazy, man. He was like, I got paid what I wanted to get paid. Now it's time to put on a show. We got a show. Instant fight of the night. Come on, man. All right, AJ, let's move on to this next bout, man. We only got 2 left to cover. Katlyn Chookagian versus Viviane Araujo, man. This was interesting. Scorecards were a little bit interesting, man, but Katlyn Chookagian does what Katlyn Chookagian does, man. It's hard to win when you play her game, and I'm going to be honest with you, AJ. I had to do a little live wagering as the fight was going on because Araujo gave Chookagian a little bit of problem in the first round, right? And automatically, I see Chookagian, the line goes to like plus 265, plus 300. I'm like, all right, we're betting on Chookagian. Why? Because Viviane Araujo didn't force the grappling nearly as much as I thought she was going to. I'm like, if you think you're going to win this fight by literally playing Chookagian's game, you want to outbox someone who is known for just boxing, being on her bike. That's what you want to do? All right. And, when she did decide to go for the grappling, it was too little too late. Give me your take from the fight, man. Why do you think Araujo took that approach to this fight?
It might have been that whole mentality of, I'm going to beat you at what you're best at. But after the second round, you bail on that thing because she did not do anywhere near what Chookagian needed, or she didn't do anything near to finish Chookagian at all, or even look good in the fight. Personally, I had it scored with Araujo actually winning 2 rounds. But at the same point, I think Katlyn Chookagian won the entire fight. She ended up better. She finished the fight better. If that was a 5-round fight, Araujo was going to be in for the world of hurting, man. So it's a weird thing with the whole judging score system. Like, it's the whole 10-9 point system is crazy to think of, but the fight itself, man, that was fun. Back and forth, Araujo just going for the head. And what I wrote down is, man, this is a game of damage versus output. Yeah. Katlyn Chookagian was just throwing bam, 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 output like crazy, where Araujo was just hunting for the head, which, some points it works, some points it doesn't. You're always head hunting. You're probably not going to find that head. Whereas with Chookagian, more volume, you're gonna end up just having more output, more numbers, and it looks better to the judges. So at the end of the day, like I said, I thought that Chookagian at the end of the day won the fight, but points wise, I would have given it to Araujo. So it's a weird win for me, man. It's a weird decision for me, I should say, because Katlyn Chookagian, and they said it in the corner when she was fighting, coming out in the 3rd round, you got to have that bad bitch attitude. And sure enough, man, Chookagian came out with that bad bitch attitude, and she was even sitting down on more of her shots in the 3rd, hitting Araujo a little harder, and it made it even more impressive to me. And that's why I think Katlyn Chookagian at the end of the day won the fight overall. I don't know, Derek, what do you think?
Well, I agree with you, man. And Katlyn Chookagian, she said herself, she said, it took me a while to turn it on, but at least I got to actually turn it on. And that was, I think, regarding that comment that you were just talking about from her corner, man. But I will say that, like, the narrative of this fight when I was on Twitter and whatnot is people just saying that, like, the air is taking a beating in this fight, man, because they were just swinging for the fences and missing all day long, hitting air, tagging air. But I will say Chookagian outstruck Araujo 127-89 in terms of significant strikes, man. So I think sometimes when we're watching the fight, we just see something a little bit different than what the numbers show, man, because it's hard to win a fight when you get outstruck by 40 strikes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a little tough, right? But nonetheless, man, I will say Araujo is she's a problem, man. But got to shore up that cardio, or you need to stop swinging for the fences with the big winging hooks and let's go 1-2s. Let's force some grappling. She was really doing her best work on the ground. So I was just so surprised to see that you're not just forcing it every single time. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, Katlyn Chookagian, man, she is now tied with Valentina Shevchenko for the most wins in women's flyweight division with 7, dude, which is very, very impressive because you're tied with the champion. You're tied with someone who's arguably one of the greatest martial artists we've seen in our lifetime, right? That's why when we talk matchmaking in just 1 second, we're going to more or less have to figure out what the hell do we do with Katlyn Chookagian. But lastly, before we get into this, man, I didn't want to talk about this one because this fight just made me jaded. You know what I mean? This fight, it made me feel like life isn't fair sometimes, and that's the story for Matt Schnell, man, because Rogerio Bontorin took this fight on short notice. Matt Schnell was originally slated to fight Alex Perez. I don't remember why they pulled out, but nonetheless, Bontorin said he was about 165 pounds when he took the call to accept the fight in 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something like that. Had to cut, or maybe a month, he had to cut down to 125, couldn't do it. Ultimately weighed in at 137 pounds after Matt Schnell already weighed in. So then Matt Schnell had to rehydrate up about 10 pounds. And if Bontorin, AJ, if Bontorin weighed in at 137, that he was most likely walking around probably at 150 or something like that. Because I'll tell you what, he looked huge in there with Matt Schnell, and when he was landing, yeah, you could tell there was a big weight difference in this fight, man. Since they didn't fight at 125 pounds, AJ, since they literally fought a weight class up, and then Rogerio didn't even make that weight class. I mean, how much credence can you give this win? A win is a win is a win, right? But I feel like this is the most unfair loss that Matt Schnell has to take. And then there's another thing I want to talk about in a second, but just give me your take on that, AJ.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you, Derek. A win is a win is a win. At the end of the day, Matt Schnell is the one who said, yeah, I'll fight him. So, I mean, it goes down to it. And we've seen in the past that weight really does matter, especially in wrestling, not necessarily in striking. Maybe, you take a big difference. Like when you said he was walking around at 165, that's absolutely insane that this man would cut 40 pounds to fight. Because he's rehydrating up, like you said, 150. Yeah. So they're fighting around 150, dude. That's crazy. But I feel bad for Matt Schnell. I feel bad for him. Like you said, man, Bontorin is bigger, landing the harder shots. Feel bad for him. But at the end of the day, Matt Schnell signed on the dotted line to fight. And, sometimes when the cage gets locked, not everything's fair, my man. And you just got to square up and fight, and that's life. So
there you go. Life is definitely not fair, man. But the game of mixed martial arts, especially in the UFC, is really, really not fair, man. But I will say this. The other reason why it wasn't fair is because, first off, we know Texas notorious for questionable judging, right? But we also had some questionable officiating, refereeing, right? And the reason why I say that is because in the last round, right, round 3 of that fight between Bontorin and Matt Schnell, he tries to adjust his mouthpiece while he's getting hit. Mouthpiece flies out of his mouth, and he fights probably 2.5 minutes without a mouthpiece, just ground and pound, smashing his face. And there's so many opportunities the referee could have been like, all right, you guys are lulling right here. You know what I mean? Before it got to those critical ground and pound spots, there was so many options for Matt Schnell to be able to stop the action so they can get his mouthpiece back in. This dude got his face smashed for 2.5 minutes with no mouthpiece, dude, against a dude who's probably 20 pounds bigger than him. To me, that was disgusting. To me, that was terrible. Matt Schnell shouldn't have to deal with something like that as a referee. They're talking about it on the broadcasting time. The broadcast team was talking about it the whole time. They were just like, dude, how does this dude not see it? And there's no one there to tell him, hey, man, his mouthpiece is out. You better not step on it. You better make sure you see it. The referee eventually saw it, man, but he didn't put it back in. Literally the fight ran out, and then he was like, all right, fight's done. My thing is, man, you could break your teeth, you could cut your tongue. Crazy things could happen. At the end of the day, this isn't street fighting, dude. This is a sport. This is a league, right? So what are we talking about? So I just felt like there was a real string of bad luck for Matt Schnell. Listen, I guess that's just how they go, man. Maybe that's karma. You know what I mean? I don't know. Matt Schnell seemed a little overconfident coming into this fight. I'm not going to lie to you. And he even said on the corner, he was like, listen, man, this dude's lulling me to sleep. He's so inactive, yada, yada, yada. Tough break for Matt Schnell, man. But listen, that was the main card that featured 2 knockouts, 3 decisions, no submissions, but 2 upsets, man. And those upsets were Rogerio Bontorin and Edson Barboza. Now, AJ, let's get into the good stuff. Or actually, lastly, before we do that, I think I mentioned it. Maybe I didn't, but I will now if I didn't. Christian Giagos gets performance of the night with a slick Darce choke, man. Put his opponent, Soriano, man, I think it's Sean Soriano or something like that, put him to sleep, man. It was a rough run. It was the first fight of the night, and that was a sub-2 Darce choke after Giagos was kind of getting it put to him in the first round, man. So that was very, very impressive. Now, matchmaking, AJ. Let's run through these ones, man. Let's start off at the top. Who's next for the champ? Charles Oliveira.
I think it has to be Poirier, right? Like, it has to be Poirier. Even if Conor wins the fight, do you still give it to him? I don't like it. Personally, I don't think Conor is where Conor was when he was champ, so I don't know if he necessarily deserves the championship fight. But if he beats Poirier, then yeah. But I think Oliveira gets the winner of Poirier versus McGregor up next. But if I had it in my perfect world, I'd say Poirier. Or throw in a crazy one, man. Like you foreshadowed a little bit earlier, and I'm sure this is what you're going to say is Justin Gaethje. That'd be a banger of a fight.
You know what, man? I honestly, and this is just my gut feeling, I don't think McGregor, if he wins against Poirier, I don't think he takes the fight against Oliveira. I don't think he wants to fight him. I think he gets exposed if he fights Oliveira, because last thing you want to do is fight a dude who's going to try to submit you the entire fight, right? Because look at the Nate Diaz, man. He already got tapped out by Nate Diaz, man. We'd argue that Oliveira is a better submission artist than Nate Diaz is, and no disrespect, Nate Diaz is a great submission artist. But nonetheless, yeah, I say Justin Gaethje, and here's the reason why. I say Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, they already said, I don't want the championship, man. I want red panty night. All right, that's fine. You get red panty night. I'm going to let you guys go figure out your business. But in the meantime, Justin Gaethje, let's stay busy for Charles Oliveira, right? The winner of this fight, I think, matches up. So Gaethje and Oliveira then fights the winner of Poirier versus McGregor, which I do have a feeling it will be Poirier, and then Poirier finally gets what he deserves. Nonetheless, that's what makes business sense. What makes MMA sense, right? Yeah, Dustin Poirier automatically gets it, right? But Justin Gaethje is now the odd man out in a weird way, but he needs to fight somebody. He doesn't make sense to fight down. I think at this point he deserves it, right? But there is no such thing as deserves in the UFC. But I just will say ultimately, man, Charles Oliveira, this dude is just on a crazy streak. What is it, nine in a row for Charles Oliveira, right? Like, listen, man, I don't know how long he could hold on to it, but we could be seeing the title change hands 2-3 times before the end of the year, man. You never know. Yeah, right on, man. The championship's always the toughest one to kind of figure out, right? But let's move on to Beneil Dariush, right? This one's a little easier, man. I got a big matchup for Beneil Dariush because he's ready for the top fivers now. He's on a 7-fight win streak. He was ranked number 9 going into this. I think he's now about number 5. He took Tony Ferguson's number. Give me your take, AJ. Who do you think for Beneil Dariush?
Well, there was a reason, Derek, I didn't go with Gaethje in the last one. It's because I want to see Benny versus Gaethje now, man. I think that would be a banger of a fight. Dariush is ready for the top 5. We need to see somebody who can stuff the wrestling, the amazing brain IQ of Trevor Whitman against, and then the skills of Justin Gaethje against Dariush and King's MMA. I think that makes for a fun fight of the night potential. It'd be a banger, man. Who do you got?
Well, I really like that fight. And I like that fight because I agree with you. That's for the fans. That's the entertainment, right? Now, does it make sense if you're Justin Gaethje? You say, why the hell would I go and fight all the way down like that? Like, I would never do such a thing. He would be the man if he did, but I don't think he's willing to risk it, man. I say Michael Chandler. How about that, man? He can't go and fight down crazy, but what you can do is you can play gatekeeper now. Now you could say, all right, man, I got to fight my way back up to the title. What better way to do it than fight more legit top 5 guys? I don't think we really want to see Michael Chandler fight, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't think that's necessarily what he's here for. I think there's a lot of fun fights to make for him. And I say Michael Chandler, but I have one other one if that one doesn't pan out, right? Maybe he doesn't want to take the fight. How about RDA? RDA versus Beneil Dariush, man. That's a wrestler versus a grappler. 2 great strikers, man. I think that would be a very, very fun matchup. And RDA is on a 1-fight win streak. Dana said that Beneil Dariush is ready for the top 5. So what do you think about that, AJ?
I mean, I think that fits the meta we've been talking about, out with the old, in with the new, man. And that's another pedestal stepping stone for Dariush. I honestly think any of those fights would be absolutely amazing, man. I'm excited that Dariush is finally getting the recognition he deserves and is in those top 5 fights, man. It's going to be fun from here on out.
I agree. I mean, come on, man. All these weeks is just talking about Beneil Dariush and whatnot. And now we're finally seeing it come to fruition. It is pretty awesome to see, man. That's why I was saying earlier, it's just the wrong time for Tony Ferguson to be fighting this guy, Dariush, man. Like, he's really surging. But nonetheless, man, next one, Rogerio Bontorin. I don't know what the hell to do with this guy, man. Like I said, his fight wasn't at flyweight, so where do I put him with the flyweights now? You know what I mean? A win is a win is a win. So for that reason, I have him jumping 1 spot and taking Matt Schnell's number 8. Matt Schnell just moves down 1 spot in my rankings personally. But I think Nicholas Matau,
Mateus Nicolau.
Mateus Nicolau. Sorry about that, folks. AJ, you got me though. That's our boy, right? You know, he got the job done against Beneil Dariush. How about you get a Rogerio Bontorin, man? This would be a great grappling matchup. Both of them got hands. I think it'll be really interesting to see. But that's the thing, Bontorin, why does he fight down like this? You know what I mean? If I'm him, I don't want to. I just got a big win. Why am I going to do that? But it's like, I just wish that this win didn't happen because it just confuses things now, man. But at the end of the day, he was on a 2-fight losing streak, and he's finally, you know, corrected course, man. So that's who I have. Who do you have, AJ?
Well, I think he does fight down, Derek, because he didn't make weight. You didn't, like you said, they didn't fight in the 125-pound division, bro. You don't get up. Like, you didn't make weight. You shouldn't even have fought. But personally, yeah, we're kind of in the same circle of thought here. Because I was going Manel Cape. I want to see him fight somebody. I think that'd be the star boy. I think that'd be a good fight. Very action-packed. I think it'd be a lot of fun to see how Bontorin handles that, especially we need to see him at 125 to really see what's going on here. Because imagine if he did cut those, and obviously short notice fight, so no like jabs against him. Yeah. But imagine if he did get down to 125 and he's a little bit more depleted now, can't take a hit now. It's interesting. It's an interesting one, but I'm going Manel Cape, man. Star boy.
No, I agree with you, man. And if Cop actually decides to let his hands go, that would be a scary, scary fight, man, against a Bontorin, who Bontorin showed, man. His hands are legit, man. He basically outstruck Matt Schnell. So it's like, we got to eat crow for that one, man. Respect to you, Bontorin. Make weight next time, pal. But, you know, respect to you. Katlyn Chookagian, blonde fighter. Where does she go next, man? It's already basically decided that the winner of Lauren Murphy versus Joanne Calderwood is probably going to be fighting for the title next. So that makes it really hard because at the end of the day, Chookagian is now the number one contender. I mean, Andrade can't be anymore, right? She just got destroyed by Shevchenko. She actually arguably got destroyed worse than Chookagian did against Shevchenko. So, yeah, she moves her back up to number 1. I got the winner of number 4 ranked Jennifer Maia versus number 8 ranked Jessica Ai, simply because I don't know where to put her, man. And I want her to stay busy because she's not going to get the title fight next. So give me your take, AJ.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, but every single name you just named, Chookagian's already fought. So no matter where, it's going to be a rematch. Like, because I was thinking Calvillo, Jessica Ai, Andrade, like all these names are all rematches. She's fought basically everyone. So this one was really hard for me to see where possibly she could even go. So I think we're going to give her a rematch. You got to give her the rematch of the 2, Jessica Andrade versus Katlyn Chookagian. Maybe it was a fluke. Maybe that body punch from Brazilian Hell was, you know, just a lucky shot. So maybe we can get it back at it again. But for me, seeing all of the hit list or the past opponents of Katlyn Chookagian, it made it really hard to decide because, like I said, and I'm hoping you're checking this right now, man. She has fought the gambit of who's who in the 125-pound division. So it's hard, man. I think she's going to, no matter what, have a rematch. And I would like to see Jessica Andrade, the little missile, go at her again. What do you think, Derek?
Well, you're right, AJ. I was checking this. So what do I have here, right, is so she has fought Jessica Ai, but she lost to Jessica Ai. It was a split decision loss. She's already fought Jennifer Maia. She beat her, UD. That was just a couple fouls right before she fought Shevchenko. She actually has already fought Lauren Murphy as well. She beat Lauren. She's fought everybody, dude. So let me just roll down the list. Win against Araujo, win against Calvillo, lost against Andrade, win against Antonina Shevchenko, lost to Valentina Shevchenko, win against Jennifer Maia, win against Joanne Calderwood, lost against Jessica Ai, win against Alexis Davis, win against Bohela, win against Aldana, lost to Carmouche, who's not in the UFC anymore, win against Lauren Murphy. She's fought everybody. There's no way. She's fought literally everybody. So, yeah, it's like, what do you do with Chookagian, man? It's either fight rematches or hold out until you can fight Valentina again. Has she done enough to fight Valentina again? Well, this division is very shallow. So then you can argue, maybe, you know what I mean? But this is one of those limbo spots for Chookagian. So, yeah, I'm still picking with mine. I say you got to either, if Jessica Ai wins this fight, which I don't necessarily think she'll beat Jennifer Maia, but if she does, you got to run the rematch back. Other than that, Matt Chookagian either decides that she's going to move up a weight class to bantamweight or something like that, or I don't know. You know, you got anything else on that one before we move on to the next one?
No, man. I like the Jessica Andrade pick, but going up for Chookagian might not be the worst idea. 135. They need a new queen. Well, if anybody can take out. Yeah.
We know. Amanda, I'm still calling her Amanda Nunes. She's gonna retire. She's gonna go to the PFL, win $1 million. You know what I'm saying? Then we're finally gonna give some opportunity for the 135ers out here and the 140. Well, no longer 145ers. But all right, Edson Barboza, Junior Barboza, man, I got a crazy one, AJ. I have one that I would be so excited to see this matched up. And I don't know if it's the same thing that you have because we've been talking about this individual recently, man. But you give me yours, AJ. Edson Barboza. He is on a 2-fight win streak. He just finished. He didn't finish Makwan Amir Khani, but Amir Khani and Shane Burgos back to back. You know what I'm saying? He got the wins. Who's next, AJ?
Man, next up, I have two. One that is a little more realistic,
Sure.
probably who they're gonna go with. Hopefully, is Arnold Allen.
Oh,
I think that's a good fight. It's a good mix 'em up. Arnold Allen's a good wrestler. You know, it's gonna be an interesting way to see. But who I would love to see him fight, we need to see him back. Yair Rodriguez, man.
Okay.
He's I know he's still on the suspension, but he's gonna come back eventually, probably pretty soon, hopefully. Barboza, Yair, kicks on kicks on kicks on kicks. New versus old. It's everything we want. We've been talking about. I think it'd be a fun fight. Who you saying? I'm intrigued to hear this one.
So you just said kicks on kicks on kicks. You said new versus old. How about Edson Barboza versus Gaethje the Ninja Chookagian, baby? Come on, man. What are we talking about here? He wants to fight Max Holloway. How about we give you an Edson Barboza before you take that step, man? I honestly think, man, that's the one. That's the one you got to go to. And the reason why is because we're not seeing somebody who can really hang with Edson Barboza in terms of the striking, right? Because Shane Burgos, he was doing his thing, but Edson Barboza was really giving it to him, man. We don't see someone who has the devastating kicks in that division outside of a Giga Chikadze. Because look at what he just did to Cub Swanson, right? And I don't want to play recency bias, man, but if we just look at the featherweight division right now, I think that is one of the matchups that you have to make. You know, come on, right? Am I right?
I like that pick both better than both mine.
Yeah.
Giga, give it to him, my man.
Come on.
Damn.
I think Giga's ready, man. I think Giga's ready. But folks, that's it. That's all the matchmaking that we got. That's all of the 5 main card winners, man. And we have a couple of minutes left, AJ. So I want to hit on something really quickly on the word of the street, man. I have very little for us today, but it's something that I do think that we need to talk about just because it's big news. To me, it is. One Dan Gall. That's what they called this last one championship event, right? It's not one on TNT. They're not doing the TNT events for a little bit now. But Arjun Bular, he defeats former UFC veteran Brandon Vera via TKO round 2 to win the one heavyweight championship. Brandon Vera's last UFC appearance was in 2013, where he lost via knockout round 1 to Ben Rothwell, man. So, you know, this is a dude in Brandon Vera. I don't know if you know who this is, AJ, but he's fought John Jones. He's fought the Matt Hamills or Mike Hamills or whatever the case may be. Like, he's fought like these OG UFC cats out there and one doing his thing. And the reason why this is big news is not because Arjun Bular just handled business. I mean, that's dope in and of itself. New heavyweight championship, cool. But Bular is now the first fighter of Indian descent, and he reps India and Canada to win a world title in a major organization in mixed martial arts, man. And that's kind of crazy because we talk about this not just in MMA, but in other sports too, right? Basketball, football. So why are there so many Indian people from India, right? But we have so very few sports stars out of India. Like, they have like a huge population. So the question is, how come there's not more MMA champions? How come there's not more NBA players who are Indian? I think there's only like 1 or 2, maybe. You know what I'm saying? I have not heard of one NFL player who's of Indian descent, or a hockey player, or a baseball player, man. So, and when I say Indian, folks, I'm talking about from India. You know what I mean? Like, not natives. I'm talking about India, right? So give me your take, AJ. This is big news, right?
Yeah, this is huge news, Derek. I actually went to school with one of the only NBA players that's Indian, Sim Bular. Same last name as Arjan Bular. And it's crazy because, like you said, they're not very well represented, and it's almost easier for them to make news because there's less. Like don't get me wrong, Sim, he's a hell of a player, tall, but I don't think he's still playing in the NBA. Like, he got a majority of his clout because he's Indian. So I hope that's not the same thing here with Arjan Bular. And I'm sure, you know, you beat a vet like Brandon Vera. And I do know Brandon Vera back in the day, man. I think it was UFC 10 to 15, man. Brandon Vera was starching people, bro. He was a banger. All right. So I'm sure Bular can fight for sure. But it's crazy to see, because we've seen the rise of all minorities. And I've said it on this podcast. The one person you don't want to fight is a minority. Like, no matter what, man, we fight. Like, that's what it is, you know? So it's weird to not see people of Indian descent coming down, because there's a lot of them. And I don't know if it's because just sports aren't as high valued or what, but it's interesting to see now that they're finally going, because it's going to be cool once we get that side of the world, even more people interested and even more hype on the fight game. Now that they have a champion, it just brings more pride to the sport. So ultimately it's a good thing to see, but I'm wondering why we don't have a lot as well.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. And I just wanted to comment. I thought it was hilarious. He said, yeah, man, this dude, he's good at basketball, pretty good. He's tall. You know, I think that's prerequisite for being an NBA player, right? You got to be pretty tall. You know what I'm saying?
I know he's like 7'2" or something. That was his thing. He's like above 7 feet. That's
No, hell yeah.
Here nor there, because it's a fighting game, but
yeah, no, but hell yeah, man. So like, listen, and folks, we do know, yeah, there are Indian fighters like in mixed martial arts. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about champions though in major mixed martial arts organizations. That's what we're talking about. But ultimately, folks, that's it. That's all we got for you, man. So drop a like, subscribe, do all of the good stuff that you need to do on you know what I mean, to stay locked in, to stay tuned in with us, man. But most importantly, go over to www.allfactorsconsidered.com, because that's the hub for literally everything. You can find all the links, all the articles, all the interviews, our pick'em records, just about everything, folks. Stay locked, stay tuned. We'll be back with you on Wednesday for our All Bets Aren't Created Equal for our UFC Fight Night 188, Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt. Will be a banger. Tune in, folks. But until then, stay locked in. That's it, folks. Until next time. Peace.